Hello and welcome to this tutorial on connecting Microsoft SQL Server to Excel using the Microsoft Query feature. So we'll be going through connecting the two, having a look at what can be done with that connection to support your reporting and analysis for your daily work or whatever purpose you have. So we'll see the changes, we'll see how we can perform calculations, how we can use more than one data source, and actually save you quite a lot of time in doing this work. So I have SQL Server installed and also Excel, and you'll need a basic knowledge of how to use those two applications, but it's nothing too difficult. And we'll move over now to SQL Server. Okay, for the purpose of the tutorial, I've brought in two data sets, one called plant data and one called sales data, just to help us explain what we're actually doing. So I'll first of all just select the data so you can have a look at what we've got. And here's sales data. There it is. So the next thing we're going to do is, to be ready for Excel in the setup, we're going to get the server process ID number. And so I'll just go to write the query for this. So the query is select @SPID and go. So we'll just execute that. And our SPID number is 52. Now we'll just keep that in mind for the next step when we go into Excel. Okay, here we are in Excel, and we'll start with the Data tab, and we'll go to From Other Sources. You can see all the various sources you can get data into Excel with. We're going to use Microsoft Query. Now, I have several connections already here, but we're going to create a new one for this purpose. Now I'll call it SQL Server Excel. You can call it anything you like. No need for spaces. It's purely something that makes sense to you. Now we need to choose a driver. The driver would be the native client, SQL Server native client. This one's 11.0. I'm using Office 2013, so you may find using a later version you have version 12 or whatever. So just choose the highest number that you have. Alright, once you have those two, we'll click Connect. Now I've installed SQL Server on my laptop, so it's my local host, if you like. So localhost can also be written with a period or full stop. I'm going to use a trusted connection, and the query we just ran in SQL Server gave us the SPID or SBN of 52. So I'm going to put that in. Before I OK that, I'm going to go to Options, and I'm going to go to select my database. Now I put those two tables I showed you before under an installation of AdventureWorks 2019. So I'm making sure that I pick that so that I can access those tables. Once I've done that, I'm going to OK that, and I'm going to select one of my tables. I'll start with plant data, and I'm going to OK that. Now I'm just going to create a query with my plant data. I go to Next. Now the options I have here, I can use filters of various levels. So I could select product produced equal to, etc. I could grab one of the product values, and in there, which would filter the values down to that value. You can also add levels of the same thing if you wanted to, but I'm not doing anything with that at the moment. So I will have a look at sorting though, and I would like to know the amount produced descending, so it'll be the most at the top, and the working time in minutes also descending. So I'll go to next. Now I can just return that as a table into Microsoft Excel. And one useful thing is, you're going to use this query over and over, is to save it, and this will be saved in SQL Server for you. So I'm going to call this plant data, just so I know, and I'm going to choose options of how I'm going to present it. Now here's my data. As you saw, I'll just bring up SQL Server for my plant data. Just move that over, just so you can see the similarities in the data, that it is actually the same information. Now obviously I have a sort on these two fields, whereas this isn't, so, but it is definitely the same data set. Okay, so now I want to add a criteria to this. There may be a question I want to answer from this. So I'll go to criteria, add criteria, and I might want to look at the product produced where it equals mouse. So what I type in here has to be exactly the same as capitals, lowercase, etc., as what is showing in the table. Okay, let's add that parameter and close, and you'll see now it's actually filtered down to that. So from here I've got my data, and I want to put it somewhere. So I want to return the data to Microsoft Excel. So here I am, and I have the choice of a table, a pivot table report, or a pivot chart. And the existing worksheet, it's going to go in at cell A1. I'm happy with that because there's no other data on the table, and I'm going to OK that. And there's my information. Now, every time that the information changes in SQL Server for that table, I'll be able to go here to refresh and see the updated results. Right, that's one example. Let's go, and for example, my manager wants to see the results of a completely different table in the same report. Now you could also use more than one table in the query and join them together as you would with, say, Microsoft Excel, for example. We are just going to do in this, for the purpose of this, just to show you that you can use different sources, and perhaps cover that in another tutorial. So in this, I'm going to view my data, and there it is. Now I'm going to, for this one, I'm going to add two criteria, and it's going to be the product equals, you could have not equals to, greater than, all of these sorts of calculations. So you could put dates in there, for example, you know, greater, where a date was greater than today or less than today, for example. I am just going to put iPhone 7. Once again, needs to be written exactly the same way as the actual product. You can see that's now filtered down to iPhone 7. And I also want to know that my manager says we've had a few problems with them being delivered. So what he wants to know is give me all the iPhone 7s that haven't been delivered yet. So I'm going to put no in, and I'm going to add that, and I'm going to close. And now I can save that query, and there's a similar one there from before, and this one is slightly different. It's going to be iPhone not delivered, and I'll save that. Okay, so you now have these queries saved, and we can now return that to Excel, and I'm going to return it as a pivot table report in cell A1 of this new sheet. So let's OK that. And if you're familiar with pivot tables, we would be looking at, we know these are not delivered, so we can put that there. We know we're only going to get none, we're only going to get iPhone 7 for that. But let's put in the first name of the person. Okay, and so the numbers aren't very helpful because they're all 500, unfortunately, but it still demonstrates what the information is going to do. Okay, so here we are with two different reports, basically from SQL Server, where each day we can go refresh the data, and as there are any changes, you'll see those changes, and these can be forwarded on to whoever wants to see them, or they can come to a certain folder in your network drive and then see the results there. And now let's say we have the need to tweak one of the reports to satisfy a request. So we'll go for the iPhone not delivered, and we'll open that. Okay, so we'll go to next. Now what's required is we want where the iPhone 7 was delivered, so we can change that parameter. We go next and finish a table. Let's have a pivot chart this time. So here we are, we'll add the value to the values, first name, and delivered we know there's only going to be one, and the product will be iPhone. So it's a bit cluttered, we'll put that up there. Okay, so there is our chart, which will update as soon as the pivot is refreshed each day and reflect the new data. Okay, so to summarize what we've done in this tutorial, we've set up the connection between Excel and SQL Server. We only have to do this once with our data each time we want to create something, which is great because it only needs to be refreshed when you want to see the latest information. You can connect more than one data source at a time. You can connect tables together in order to create a more complex query if you need to, in order to get exactly the report and the fields you need for your analysis or reporting. We can apply criteria, we can do calculations, we can apply filters and sorting to your data as well, depending on what you need. And once again, just refresh the data, it will update a table, a pivot table, or a pivot chart, and you can then send it on to your audience. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial and learned something from it, and I'll see you in the next one.